All right, you all hear me? Yeah, so Hill High senior Logan Stugart recently earned the honor of performing with the All-National Honor Choir hosted by the National Association for Music Education in Nashville, Tennessee. Logan began singing in kindergarten and was accepted into the Portland Boy Choir before he turned 8 years old. He's also performed with the Oregon Symphony and at Carnegie Hall in New York City. He was one of about 350 students nationwide to be selected for the All-National Choir and one of only 4 from Oregon. We understand his performance on October 30th with the rest of the choir, the best high school singers from across the country, was outstanding. They sang under the baton of Dr. Rollo Dilworth of the Temple University School of Music. Not only does Logan dedicate his time to singing, he also holds down a job coaching youth football, is taking international baccalaureate courses, had a starring role as Lysander in the recent Hill High performance of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, and is a member of the Hillsboro High School Encore Ensemble. Logan credits his success to his kindergarten teacher, his parents, and many hours of practice. After he graduates, Logan is planning to major in vocal performance and possibly public policy at Vanderbilt, Rice, or the University of Virginia. Please join me in congratulating Logan on his outstanding accomplishment. You aren't even in the room for all that? I hope you heard some of it. Just you. So, certificate for you. And take a picture. Yeah.
Do you want to say a little bit about your experience at the All-National Choir event?
Sure. That was the mic right there.
You can go up to the mic, that works.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for recognizing this. A lot of times, arts achievements go unappreciated, I suppose. I had an absolutely amazing experience, and I could not have done any of it without the support of Ms. Reed and also the Hillsboro High School Choir community. So I'd like to thank them, as well as my family. Thank you guys so much.
Now, Logan and his classmates from Hill High's Encore Ensemble will perform 3 songs for us under the direction of the choir teacher, Paula Reed. Odi Christus Natus Est by Kola Owolabi, Bethlehem Down by Peter Warlock, and Ding a Ding by Greg Gilpin.
featured person of the night, Logan, so he'll be doing a solo section.
dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding a ding, ding a ding a ding a ding dong, merrily they ding dong ding.
Getting close, so we can do a big group shot. And maybe briefly while they're getting ready, do you want to say what it takes to become a member of the Encore Ensemble?
Yeah, this is the elite of the elite. So they have to be in concert choir. First they do some other things, but they have to be in concert choir to be into this group. They have this all audition. And then they rehearse in the mornings at 7 a.m. every day except for Wednesday, late start. So they do every day. And we have a lot of extra performances that they do, like this one and other ones, especially at this holiday season. So we have a lot of rehearsals and performances that they're doing. And then we do festivals in the spring, which this group always does well. They always get superior. So it's kind of fun to be with such a fine group. And they're fun to work with, and they work hard and laugh. And you probably heard them. They laugh a lot too.
So my guess is you probably have a performance coming up at school, and you're probably at the Grotto.
Yes.
And what are those?
At 8 o'clock on the 18th, we're at the Grotto. And it's the 17th, we have our concert at 7 o'clock at Hill High Auditorium. So those are some of them.
Well, thanks so much for being here, and I would love to get a picture of you guys. Oh, you're so good. You're so good. All right, we'll do 2. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on. Wow. Okay, there we go.
I've never seen Mike take out his cell phone.
Well, you're gonna have
He's tweeting now.
Oh, now you're going to have how many more?
Okay, so girls for
You guys are fantastic, just like that way. Love it.
beautiful. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Okay. I was just saying to the superintendent, I wish every birthday started something like that. That would make work much easier, right? I would like to ask for approval of agenda. Need a motion, please? And a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Glenn and seconded by Eric to approve the agenda. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Perfect. Agenda passes. And this is the first of our audience times. And do we have anyone wanting to speak to the board this evening? There are forms to fill out on the back table. Anyone questions, you grab all of those? All right, we'll move right along. Next is consent agenda. Need a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Perfect. And a second? Seconded. Been moved by Monty and seconded by Janine to approve the consent agenda. Questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along to action items. The first item up is to approve a resolution authorizing our settlement with Nano Architects and Adam.
Back at, I believe it was our October work session at the city of Hillsboro, we had a visit from our attorney, Larry Brisby, who explained the settlement agreement with Nano Architect. And tonight we finally have the resolution to present to you. So, approval we'll move forward with that.
Okay. So first I would need a motion.
Look, can I ask, what are we moving for here? I don't see any actual,
To approve the resolution. So
It's
once we may have the motion, then we can discuss it. So it has to be on the table to discuss.
I'll move it.
It's on team.
And it's on teamwork, so everyone able to get on teamwork. So I need a motion first.
Eric motion.
Yeah.
Oh, need a figure. Okay, and a second?
I'll second that.
Perfect. So then, questions regarding the resolution?
Yeah, I just, one quick question. So the architects, are we still using them? Or
We are.
We are,
Yes.
okay. So we have an amicable relationship with them.
We
They
do.
realize that things didn't work out quite well. They recognize that.
Correct. They were
Okay.
a party to the original contract, which is why they were a part of the lawsuit, but we do have a working relationship. In fact, they were at our last one of
Right.
those plans.
That's what I thought. I remembered. Okay.
And then Eric, did you have questions?
No, just looking at it on teamwork, so I was a little confused. It wasn't in the packet directly. Yeah.
Anyone else with a question or comment? So it's been moved by Eric and seconded by Glenn to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next up is also added to a Word or copier contract.
Yes, as you noticed upstairs today, we had several copiers lined up there. We actually went through an RFI, request for information process recently, where we had several copier companies present to us. And we have tonight a contract award that we would like to make to Pacific Office Automation. This contract will save us approximately $1.5 million over the next 5 years over what our current contract is, and will obviously provide us with new machines. Our goal is to have these in place in the buildings and in our print shop over the Christmas break. So
He's going to be very happy.
So the saved money is over our prior contract?
correct.
And I didn't see a mention of the relative quality of the different offers.
Hang on, before we discuss too much, let me get a motion. So
I thought it was, sorry.
I make a motion to award a 60-month contract to provide multifunction copiers and copier maintenance to Pacific Office Automation.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, now go ahead.
So we have our print shop manager here. Bryson, do you want to talk about the different machines and the ones we selected and the quality of the?
Yeah, so all the machines that all the vendors proposed are better than the machines we have. Just the fact that they're even new. The ones that we picked, out of the vendors, I would say they were the best copiers. Quality, the life of them. I mean, they're solid machines.
Don, did you have anything you want to add? You were a part of that process
I was
as
part of the
well.
process, and one of the things, I mean, they all had minimum standards in RFI. If anybody's curious of seeing what the RFI standards were that we put forth, they all had to meet minimum specs for speed and response and things like that. So what David alluded to and talked about is that we're at 4-year-old copiers that are being used heavily in our buildings. This puts brand new copiers in there at a much greater reduced cost for the district on a monthly basis. So.
I think I was just asking the comparison between the offers. I assume they each put forward their offer, and whether it was also, in addition to the machines being the favorite, was
There was a significant savings with going with Pacific Office Automation over the length of all three offers that came in and presented to us provided.
it was the best of the 3 offers, and you like their equipment the best?
Yes.
And their service was superior or the same as the others, or?
Yeah, the Pacific Office Automation, being a local company, being a local business, and having a large warehouse here in Beaverton area, has the parts on hand, so there's no overnight waiting for them. They provided superior uptime guarantee, response to service requests, and all, I mean, so I can give you details, but they have the best. And Beaverton School District uses them, we've checked with them, we've checked other building references. Very, very highly recommend.
And we save $1.5 million.
Yeah, so I think we're inclined to trust the staff on this one, but just, when we have items like this, it might be nice to at least have some kind of summary table based on what factors you consider, rather than just purely saying, okay, take Adam's recommendation.
Sure, understood. And we can include that on the teamwork site.
And maybe as they go into buildings, people don't think that we're just buying machines because we've got lots of money sitting, and that's what we're choosing to spend our money on, that it's a contract, basically renewal.
Right, we're rolling over contract.
Oftentimes, if you're a parent in a building and you see new equipment coming in, you don't always understand what that is, and that there's the illusion that you're choosing to buy a copy machine rather than a teacher.
You could also print a copy that says we're saving $1.5 million.
So in addition, the question was not just looking for a low ball, but there can be legitimate good reasons why you might have accepted a middle offer for the equipment service and other things, and prepping us to know the story for the community is helpful, and if we get that, hey, that it wasn't the cheapest offer, why, and that's the kind of information you want to prep us with, so that not only for approval here, but for interaction in the community.
I will get that information up on the teamwork site.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
So
with that, it was moved by Janine, seconded by Monty to award the copier contract. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next we have a list of policies. We will start with Elaine and revisions to policy JHCCA.
We'd like to recommend just moving forward with deleting policy JHCCB. That policy is basically rolled into the next policy, which is JHCCA. And the rules in that are also restated in the communicable disease section of ODE's Oregon School Health Services Manual. And if you are interested in taking a look at that, I have a copy of it here. I didn't receive any questions over the last 30 days, so my recommendation would be to just proceed.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion on this policy.
I make a motion to approve revisions to policy JHCCA, HIV, HPV, and AIDS, and delete policy JHCCB, HIV, AIDS.
Second.
Then moved by Adriana, seconded by Janine. Anyone have questions or comments for Elaine? No? Okay. So with that, all those in favor of approving policy JHCCA and deleting policy JHCCB, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. And next up is Don, and the first one for him will be revisions to policies IG, BAB, JO, regarding education records.
So this is, again, another policy after the 30-day review. There have been received no comments or questions around these policy revisions, so we're asking you to move forward and accept the proposed changes.
Okay. And I need a motion for that.
I apologize, this was the education records of students?
Yep.
Yes.
Trying to find the appropriate wording.
Starts on page 43 of the board packet.
This one right here. I make a motion to approve the revisions to policies IGBAB-/JO, education records of students with disabilities, IGBAB/JO-AR, education records of students with disabilities management, JOA, directory information, and JOB, personally identifiable information.
All right, who wants to do all that?
I'll second that.
Perfect.
I could have read it.
Anyone have questions or comments for Don? All right, seeing none, it's been moved by Janine and seconded by Glenn to approve the revisions to the long list of policies starting with IGBAB. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'm going to stay here and pinch hit for Saida.
Yep, so Saida is out this evening due to illness, and so she's going to, John will help us with the revisions to policies JEC.
So again, this is another policy that went before us 30 days in. It's gone through the 30-day wait period. Has received no comments or questions around this policy, so recommend moving forward with the proposed changes.
Perfect. I need a motion.
All right, I'll move that we approve revisions to policies JEC, school admissions, JECA, admission of resident students.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you. So moved by Eric and seconded by Janine. Any questions or comments on this policy? Moving right along. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Steve's on deck next. We're on a roll here, Steve.
Okay, so also on the 30-day review is policy IKAB, which was revised according to OSBA recommended language to come in line with House Bill 2220. And I have received no comment in the comment period.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the revisions to policy IKAB, student progress reports to parents.
Okay. Moved by Janine. And a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions and comments? I see Wayne's hand.
Just when you thought it was going smoothly, I waited for Steve. So actually, I would have talked about this in our board discussion time, but there wasn't time in the conference reports to discuss this. It so happens one of the topic areas that I attended at the conference on November, whatever it was, 19, was discussion of the HB 2220, because I wanted to get from them what their perception of the requirements was. And I went in hoping for kind of a discussion of how this was making things better, or hearing what the purpose was, what it was suited to, and whenever I got to try to pin them down on it, the only thing they fell back to, and the message overall from that description from the OSBA about what 2220 really is that it states as a difference that, let's see if I can come up with their terminology again, that the school district reports at least once a year to parents on the progress of their students according to guideline or something like that. And essentially focused, and when we talked about anything outside of that domain, they fell back to the only change, the only thing about the 2220 that was different was the requirement for at least one-time report. Now that's completely and wholly inadequate from a purpose of why you would want to do it, but it doesn't regulate how many times, only at least once. It doesn't require when, it doesn't require any forms, only except for the qualification that it be based on, what's the wording? Based on, you have it written here in one of these bullets. Progress towards academic standards or something like that. So that, when I saw this 30 days ago, I didn't think anything of the language that was proposed as a change. But now it's curious to me seeing the fairly complete rewrite of how that's different from what was advertised by them as 2220 was requiring. And that we are, in the name of 2220, stating a lot more here than what was stated, and a lot more than what 2220 apparently was requiring. And so I was wondering what the difference in language was versus their such a strong reinforcement, because they were in that form, they weren't really trying to talk about the educational benefit of having parents have a continual ability to judge how their students are doing, because anytime you ask that, they would always fall back to, well, that's great, but all this law requires is one report a year. So relying on 2220 didn't seem to me like a wonderful benchmark for how we should be interacting with parents. And so I wondered how the policy leap gets made based on the 2020. That's a confusing question, I'm sure.
I'm going to take a shot, and so how can we make a policy that communicates our values that go beyond the simple requirements of what 2220 is? Is that...
Yes, that's pretty close. I just, you know, in the actual rewrite, it talks about parents shall be informed annually of their students' progress toward meeting and exceeding grade level academic content standards, by including but not limited to. So
part of this policy in its previous iteration was to describe what the district commits to providing parents, which is more than just progress on academic standards. 2220 says that you have to do that at least once annually. It also has some language about what you do in regards to behavior that's non-academic. It's not so much in here, that's more in our policy IK, and we're not changing the policy IK because of the amount of work we went through to make that be what it is now, right? So this goes beyond, I would say, the change was produced because of the requirement to talk about or to communicate with parents once annually. But the additional recommended language from OSBA has more to do with what else I think we should be providing to parents. Progress toward essential skills, the other items, local assessments. So I think it does go beyond 2220, but the prompt to change it was because our previous policy didn't require an annual distribution of progress toward standards. Does that help?
So why do we say in this, shall be informed annually? Because that doesn't reflect the value of what we want parents to be aware of. I mean, if it seems a cross between what we'd like to see and what's kind of mandated.
You'd like to see more.
I'm wondering, is it because when I read the legislation, I thought it was them trying to get it away from a traditional report card and more of a proficiency. So we may have a report card that's quarterly or but that's not necessarily your student's proficiency on what they're supposed to get that year. So I think it's an annual on their proficiency of content, but that's not necessarily, unless you're going full-blown proficiency grading, that's not going to look the same as their report card, at least in secondary.
Well, and not in our district. There are some districts that are blending the two together. We are going to actually produce separate reports, at least in the secondary, and then take a little bit more time in elementary to refine it. Because elementary, we were already doing kind of a standard-based report. So
2220 doesn't force you to do one or the other. You can certainly come up with report cards. I guess my issue with the one time was that if the purpose is to make parents aware, and that's the stated intent is to make parents aware of the student's progress, that if it's reported annually at the end after it's all said and done, it's wholly inadequate for allowing the parents to help steer and guide the process.
The policy only describes the bare minimum of what we would want to provide for our parents, and so I agree. We do it more with the parent view. Certainly they can get on there and monitor progress and provide.
So could we modify the wording to maybe say parents shall be informed at least annually? That way we could add more, because I mean, it seems to me what Wade is saying is that it's not enough, we guarantee they're going to get it in a relevant timing.
I mean, what was struck out of this policy was the board, kind of editorial prose on the purpose of what this is trying to do. The board, what's being struck out, the board believes that parents need and want to know how their students are performing in school. It implies the purpose of this used to be to give parents a heads up and ability to take action and do things, because it's important for them to be able to know and do that. Second, dialogue between parents and teachers will benefit staff, teachers, and all that. So kind of stripping that out and putting it back to a language that's kind of the legal language rather than the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish. And the spirit of what we want in the policy is to keep parents aware. I don't need the color that describes why we think it's important. That I don't mind the thing being struck out, but it kind of saddens me to see us going from a philosophy of what we want to have happen to a legal minimum requirement description of what has to happen. I don't know if anyone else is.
It reads perfectly well to maintain what was struck out in that first paragraph.
I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, I'm not ultimately against it. I guess I didn't notice it before, and it wasn't until the conversation in the conference regarding 2020 and desired outcomes and how the legal requirement is not set up to define the best outcomes that we want to achieve, only a minimum lowest bar that they could pass in a legislature for what can be required. Just sad every time we set our standard by the lowest bar achievable in a state.
It's great. And what I try to do with the policies is start with what's required, and then the values get added as we review them. But I like both of those, that maintain that first paragraph and maybe add that at least once annually.
Well, and I appreciate what he's saying. This doesn't accurately reflect how we are reporting microparents right now. And I took that to be because there's this component that's got to be proficiency separate from the traditional report card. But then do we reference that traditional report card so that parents know to expect a midterm and a quarter when those come? And that might not look like proficiency. It might be traditional. Are they supposed to be two different things? I thought the legislature was really looking for proficiency. So whether a district was going to proficiency grading or not, they were going to have a report on proficiency.
I think that's eventually where
I think that was what they had intended, and then there's been some softening of the intentions along the way.
So can we, I'm sorry, it's because you was already on 30-day review. Can we add something that indicates what our current practice is, separate from House Bill 2220 and the requirement of proficiency grading, so that families know that's not the only way we communicate with you on your students' progress?
We could put it in the AR as well. I don't have the AR in front of me, but I can take a look at that. And, so that's an option if you want to just put it in the AR.
Some of the requirements, like shall be informed annually, and then it says item 3, student scores on all state and local assessments indicating any requirements that have been waived in the district. Kind of implies you're setting it up for an end of, after all is known, you're going to send it out, and that's not even the requirement of 2220 that it be reports at the end. And in fact, arguably, it's least useful at the end after the failure has occurred that could have been prevented.
And actually, I'm a little flat-footed on the details, but that particular one speaks to a different requirement that we do that at least once annually. So it's not just a 2220.
it's a little pink slip you get that tells you where your kids are and those.
Your old score. And that is only once a year.
Right. Not pink, meaning that.
Well, so it reads in a way that can imply that a report is going to be given to parents that has this information in it. And if it does have that information in it, that forces it to be at the end rather than where we might want to do it, perhaps at mid-year or...
I think that's where the reporting is, though. That's where you get your scores. I believe it's...
We would need to do it.
You have to do it when the scores are...
Only if you require the OAK score as part of the parents shall be informed annually.
So if we're considering putting stuff back, I wonder about this other thing we struck out where parents will be notified as soon as possible if their child's performance or attitude shows marked or sudden change. Well, don't we do that anyway? I mean, parents and teachers are in contact all the time.
That would be
So,
an expectation.
Yeah, so why do we strike it out of the policy?
Anyway, we just adapted the policy to be in line word for word with OSBA recommended language, and then the 30-day review is to add those values back on. Then
It's a paid service that they offer for us.
So how about we I make a suggestion here that we take another 30 days on this one, and we put it back on the January agenda, and we'll do a rewrite of it. If you have any additional items before the night of the meeting, then go ahead and reach out to Steve so that he has an opportunity to build those in.
Yeah.
I apologize, no surprise intended. I really had just to discuss things more likely in the work session where we were going to talk about the conference thing. So
we have a motion on the floor, though, to approve it. So
The maker could withdraw it.
Oh, there you go. The maker could
If they
withdraw.
want.
So it was made by Janine and seconded by Glenn. If you would like to withdraw your motion, or we can vote on it.
Do we have a general consensus that this is an issue, or should we take the vote? I'm not going to have an issue with it, but in the interest of harmony.
You don't have to take it away if you don't want to. It's your choice.
Well, if that's where you're saying, I will take it away, but I don't have an issue with the way it's how it's posted, but I will take it off
So
the table.
with the motion, and do both people, sorry, point of order, do both people have to withdraw their motion?
Well, I'm willing to withdraw as well.
All right, so we will withdraw the motion to approve revisions to policy IKAB. It will go back on 30-day, an additional 30-day review, and we will bring it back in January. Yep, go ahead.
I have to make some comments on this because I'm kind of surprised by the level of conversation that this has taken, because I think that it's a foundation and it's not exactly spelling it over. But now we're asking, are we asking staff members to now take additional time to wordsmith and rewrite this?
Yep, so if you have feedback other than what you gave tonight, you can direct it to Steve. If there's language you would like to see added or changed to that policy.
Probably should send out some sort of direction as to a definition as to what a policy is and what an AR is. So to make sure that people know that there is a difference.
Perfect. We will include that in the update. Anything else? All right. Next, we need to elect members to the OSBA Board of Directors, and in your packet there is language to help you do that. The Board of Directors, we have two that serve, that we get a vote on for the Hillsboro School District, position 15 and 16, and we do them separately. So we'll do one and then the other.
It's in the packet? Open teamwork.
I'm sorry, it might be, I can hand you this, Janine.
Okay.
I have notes about it. It's item G.
Okay. I move that the board cast its vote for position 15 for Leanne Larson for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 15. Another board member?
So we need a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Anyone have questions or comments about that? Go ahead, Janine.
Only thing, I'm just going to say my basis for both in this because I support both of these ladies in this position. I've worked with them for several years. These ladies are dedicated to their school board positions. I went to training with them, and I feel that they will be excellent representation for our area, for our region.
Any other questions or comments? So with that, it was moved by Janine, seconded by Eric to nominate Leanne Larson for position 15. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we would need a motion for position 16.
I move that the board cast its vote for Maureen Wolf for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 16.
And I'll second that.
Anyone have questions or comments on that position? So it's been moved by Janine, seconded by Glenn to approve Maureen Wolf for position 16 on the OSBA board. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Val, I'll work with you on getting that information to us. Do we have to sign something?
She'll enter the vote on
Is it electronic? Ah, even better. Perfect. So next, we also have position 15 and 16 for the Legislative Policy Committee. These are both uncontested seats as well. So we need a motion for position 15.
I can read this writing like it was before.
I think so.
Okay, so I'm gonna wing it. I make a motion to for the board approve. Oh gosh, Jill Zerschmiede? I don't know. For the position 15 for the Legislative Policy Committee. Apologize, Jill, for mispronouncing her name.
I'll second that.
Perfect. It's been moved by Janine, seconded by Glenn. Anyone have questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of Jill Zerschmiede for position 15 in the Legislative Policy Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we get to nominate for position 16.
I make a motion that the board approve Fred Marvel for position 16 of the Legislative Policy Committee.
And I'll second.
Perfect. And anyone have questions or comments on this position? All right, yeah.
I just wanted to say that I have known Fred for many years, and I believe he has served as a region for OSBA region position, I'm sorry, Board of Directors, thank you. And for many years, and this is a change in direction for him, but I feel like it will be excellent representation. And I greatly respect him and his family. His father has married several of my family members. That doesn't have to make the notes.
As an official.
Yes.
He hasn't personally buried.
Oh,
So he came
So it has been moved by Janine and seconded by Glenn to nominate Fred Marble to position 16 to the LPC. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Motion carries, and we are done with that for a while. The last item on actions is to vote on the OSBA resolution. So occasionally, the OSBA has resolutions that member districts get to vote on. We, based on the size of our district, I believe we get 2 votes on this matter. So based on how we vote, it can get 2 yeses, 2 noes, or 1 yes and 1 no. The one resolution is in your memo. If someone could make a motion on that.
Move and discuss.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to amend the OSBA Constitution to change the election process.
Thank you, Janine.
Second.
Been moved by Janine and seconded by Eric to support the resolution 1 to amend the Constitution. Anyone have questions or comments on this? Yeah, Wayne.
Does anybody have in their head like the 30-second summary? I really did try to read through that, but is there kind of a big picture description of what
To me,
they
almost
did?
like housekeeping, like they changed.
I kept getting lost
So they
in
got
this
more-
about detail, and I
Right.
couldn't follow a theme of what
Wasn't
the
very
change
well.
was.
It's making it so they have more flexibility of when they choose to meet, instead of saying it has to be in November, and it's cleaning up that meeting that they do in November at convention, I believe. And I think it matches, if someone's been to convention before, I think it matches their current practice of not doing all of that meeting stuff at convention, but at convention this year, you got sort of a president's report and treasurer's report, and not all those other items that they're suggesting will happen at a different location. But to me, it felt like housekeeping for them of what they're actually doing in real practice. Glenn?
So, the thing that jumped out to me right away reading the first page of this was they're doing like, instead of approving these things like their legislative policy and priorities and also their resolution of association, they're just receiving the reports now. And I wondered if we had any insight why they don't care to approve them anymore. I mean, they're just going to take them and, basically heard them. I mean, we hear reports too, but I just wondered if we knew anything about these changes. Do we have any heads up over them? Right there, page 74. It's struck out in red.
And I think part of that is that the board of directors no longer does the legislative work. I think the legislative work happens in a legislative policy committee, and they bring forth the work, and I think that might be it, that we're not, we no longer approve at that meeting, the legislative policies. That comes through the legislative policy committee, and then we vote for it here in our individual board meetings, whether we or not support those resolutions, but it happens at the local level rather than at the convention setting.
So I guess what I hear you saying is that they're basically operating more autonomously from their own board of directors, making their own decisions.
No,
It's not us who's approving them. I mean, it's their board of directors who approves these things at their meeting. According to what this was.
Well, the committees do it, so we nominate people who represent us at those committees.
Jill.
They make those decisions rather than the board, the legislative policy committee, which is made up of representatives that we all do. And then rather than talking about that at convention, I took that to mean that we'll continue the process. What we've been doing is once the LPC creates their policy, their recommended pieces, it comes here and we vote on them as well as a district. So we don't have to go to the convention to have a voice in the process. We can stay in our chairs that don't work. Is that, for those of you who've been to convention before, does that sound right? And you served on LPC. I don't know if you have anything else you could add to it, Monty.
No, summarize pretty well.
Any other questions or comments? So it's been moved by Janine and seconded by Eric to support Resolution 1 and amend the OSBA Constitution to change their election processes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have reports and discussion. And Mike, do you want to help us introduce folks from ESP?
Absolutely. Each year, the Northwest Regional VSD comes and they give us a report on the services that are provided, not only regionally, but to our district specifically. And tonight we have Robin Bean, who is the HR officer for the ESD, and our favorite ESD board member, Lisa Poland, used to sit up here. So welcome to
It's been a
both.
while. Thank you. Actually, the first thing on my agenda is to introduce Robin, but thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, I know you've had you're familiar with our structure, and I know you've had some time with the annual report, so I'll just be brief, but for those who may not be familiar, there are 4 key areas that Northwest Regional ESD provides support to the 20 districts in our region. Those fall under the umbrellas of special education, which includes early intervention, early childhood special education, as well as related services, and the Department of Schools also falls in special education, and those are our day treatment and behavioral programs where students from across the region attend. In addition to special education, we provide school improvement services. That's part of core services, which we'll talk about in a minute. Technology and administrative support, including some shared services, like renewing gas, and we actually are doing business support as well as technology support in some of the smaller districts. So in addition to what falls under core. So if I could just draw your attention to page 8. Do you have books?
And we have books on, and we also have it on Teamworks if you'd rather look at it too.
The page 8 just looks at the distinction between service credit allocations and core services. As you know, the percentage of the state K-12 funding that comes to ESDs, 90% of that is distributed back to the school districts in the region that ESD covers. Our Northwest Regional ESD for a number of years has had a model with a group of services called CORE. That's 25% of the 90. The remaining 75% is delivered. And whether you are a district of 125 or a district of 35,000, the core services are meant to be equitably distributed among all the kids in the region, and there's services for the ESD. And then the other 75% of the 90% is distributed based on ADMW to the districts for use to buy a variety of programs and services, or to take some of that money in cash. The core services, while it says 25, 75 in this current fiscal year, I guess I'm giving the overview, aren't I, of 12-13, which is completed. It's really slightly less than that for this 13-14 year because the way that school improvement is being delivered is more on ADMW as well. The things that fall under core services are technology, the special ed administration, so the oversight of staff, special ed staff that's out in districts, service centers. We have service centers in Washington, Columbia, Tillamook, and Clatsop counties. Some little things like emergency closure and the county locations are big. So because of the way that school improvement is distributed, it's really, I think, more like just under 20% core services and slightly more than 80% going out in the form of service credits. So you can see on this one page how the different districts, based on their ADMW, what their service credit allocations are. And if you flip all the way to page 55, describes Hillsboro School District's programs and services for the year that has posted, which is 12-13. Special student services, it's kind of fun to look at this, but I won't read it to you. It identifies how many children were evaluated for early childhood special education, how many of your students are served in our schools departments, the kinds of things that happen across the board for Hillsboro School District. And then how you use your service credit dollars in additional services purchased above and beyond the allocated service credit dollars. So there's a lot of information there. You have a fairly big pool in your service credit dollars. So I don't know if you have questions that I may or may not be able to answer about that year that has wrapped. We're in the, I don't know, this is 13-14 school year. The way that core services are being delivered this year, which we'll be reporting on in a whole year, we're always working almost a full year ahead in terms of the planfulness of the delivery of services to our region. And so currently, the superintendents in the region met early November to just to begin to develop the plan for the 14-15 year. And as a result of Hillsboro's choice to take 65% of their dollars in the form of cash, Mike certainly participated, but the process for that is now, there's been a plan developed. Our Northwest Regional Board will vote on that plan in December, and then it will go out to the districts for approval. The districts that are still participating at greater than 50%. So I think that process, unless something about the plan changes between now and March, I guess, would not include a vote from this board for this 14-15 year. But it looks similar to, similar to what we've done in the core, and service credit dollars are slightly differently aligned based on the changes in our funding, with two large districts not as having a less impact on core, a great impact on core, but less money going in. So, yes.
Question. Two questions. One is I was looking on, well, actually a couple, three. Groner Elementary School, it says, real quick, it says 4 students. Has that program has shrunk? Because when
well, that's a good question. I think it's just giving the number of Hillsboro students after Groner, but there are students from other school districts there.
Okay.
I think there are 12 or so children altogether in that elementary.
Okay. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you. 2, I did not realize your connection with the fire science program in the district.
Great.
I had no idea that, and that is an incredibly successful program, so I thank your involvement with that.
It's a very exciting program, so we're glad to be.
My son is a current student in that program. And my final one is, when you look at the service credit utilization, and you look at those dollar amounts, can you explain to me what, I'm sorry, that's probably a very naive question. You're looking at the Cascade Academy slots, and you're looking almost $600,000. Are those, that is the cost of the students from Hillsboro?
Correct.
The 17 students?
Yes, that's true.
It might be helpful to provide a definition of the Cascade Academy and the students that.
I was just looking at the top one, right?
Yeah.
That was the one at the top of the list, so that's why I was trying to collate them.
And I'm wondering, because I think that Cascade and Pacific Academy may be wrapped into that $599,000, so it's probably more like 28, no? Okay, well, I'm wrong. So the kids that are served at Pacific Academy and Cascade Academy are students who are not finding success in their home at school as a result of behavioral and emotional difficulties, including some significant mental health needs. So that program is staffed with a host of behavior specialists, mental health professionals, and special education teachers. So the slot cost per student is at about just under $40,000 a slot.
Anyone else have questions?
Back on page 8,
Yes.
county allocations is a big number. What is that?
Oh, okay, well, I bet you Mike can probably do better than me on county allocations. So in an effort to provide districts in the counties some autonomy with a base amount of dollars to spend, and every county spends their money differently. There's funds allocated to the county for the districts, and the superintendents make the decisions of how to spend those dollars. So for instance, in Tillamook, they use it for their career technical ed. They hire a culinary arts and a health sciences kind of person, and they run 2 classrooms for students. That's one example. I'm sorry, I'm kind of drawing a blank. But in Washington County, it's more distributed again across the county on DFW.
We basically take it in cash.
I think
It didn't sound very fancy, but that's what we do.
They don't take it in cash in the 3 other counties, and I think that money is really of significance for those districts to do things like a principal's academy in Columbia County, and it provides some funds that they wouldn't otherwise have in their districts to do that work, and they wouldn't independently be able to accomplish it. But it's put into an account for those superintendents to allocate and distribute, and it is not decided upon by the state how the money is used.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell me what the truancy enforcement is?
They are very interesting to do a presentation, and I wish now I was better at describing what they do. But for districts under 1,000, truancy services is actually provided, and I think it's by statute that those folks go out. Kids who are truant are reported to our truancy officers. They make, they have a whole series of attempts that they make for contact with kids. With families, I should say. They make contracts with those families to get them back into school. They soft shoe it for a long time, but they're very effective. And I want to say when truancy officers get involved, approximately, I think they said 65 or 75% of the kids they get back in the classroom on a really regular basis. For districts over 1,000, it's a for-a-fee service.
I'm sorry, what?
It's for a fees. Truancy services can still be purchased, but it's not.
Because I see we had 48 contacts. I see we had 48 contacts.
So then you contracted for those 48 contacts using your service credit allocations.
So Janine, under additional services purchased on page 56, it has a cost for truancy services.
Yeah, I was looking at the other side of that where it was saying
the number of
48
kids.
contacts. Yeah.
They have some great data when they do present about when they get a student back in school, and the savings to the district based on the cost, the expense of the truancy officer, and it's generally a pretty significant. We all want the kids in school in the first place, and in the second place, they pay for themselves when they can keep them in school.
Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to acknowledge 2 teachers here in the district who received grants from the Northwest Regional Foundation recently, and you may know about them. The first was Charmaine Sandifer. She's a special ed teacher at Jackson, and she got a grant for $896 from the foundation to get some items for sensory and calming for her students. And the second grant was to Laura McBroom at Indian Hills. And this was for working with dysgraphia and autism spectrum disorder students. So anyway, congratulations. We want to thank you for our time here in front of the board. And did you have any other additional questions?
Anyone want to grow Lisa while she's she's on that side?
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And with that, we will move to Adam and the financial report.
The financial report this month is kind of a compilation of everything that's happened in the business office over the last calendar year. Lots of facts and figures. I don't know if there's any questions on that. I did have one item to highlight. We've scheduled a new budget committee member orientation for December 12th from 4 to 5. So we're inviting all our new budget committee members, and actually we're inviting all our budget committee members, and board members are more than welcome if anybody's interested, so.
You can have treats there?
Would that help?
Do you mean we can't afford
Would
treats?
help.
If that would help.
I'm just kidding.
Does anyone have questions or comments for Adam?
What was that date? I'm sorry.
December 12th, 4 to 5.
So you'll send out meeting invitations to every member of the committee?
Yes.
All right, perfect. That way I don't have to write it down.
All right, thank you, Adam. And next up, we have a first reading of policy JHFF with Casey.
Good evening. This is the first reading for policy JHFF, and it's reporting requirements regarding sexual conduct with students. This is based off of OSBA recommended language, and the change is actually one sentence in the 7th paragraph. It just basically states if the alleged perpetrator is where the original report is to go in a building or a site, that report will now go to the assistant superintendent of human resources to review. That's it.
And so since it's going on 30-day review, if you have questions, you can send it to Casey. If you have questions tonight while he's here.
Just a quick question. So does this policy somewhere account for what if the assistant superintendent of human resources is the actual person who does
I knew that was going to come up. It doesn't go that far. I guess we probably could put something in there that it would go to the superintendent and then I guess to you folks if it got above that level.
Yeah, it seems like while you're putting this change in, you might as well say something about that. It's kind of concept, right?
The funny thing is, to me, is that you need to put it in there at all. It speaks to a lawyerly aspect of it. And you can clarify it easily by just referring to the superior without needing to be specific as to what level you're at.
Yeah, I definitely think it is for protection of that employee going to their direct supervisor. And if it's not spelled out, some ramifications for that, just so that employee knows in policy who that next step is.
Because if that's the reason, you might make it generic instead of, maybe is this assuming only that this is from district personnel?
It could really be
supervisor
any
they don't
employee.
report to, then the language probably should just say something about the next, what someone else can do. I feel sad if you have to play it at all. But if you have to say it, you have to play the game, then Eric's point is you should either need to state the whole chain or maybe make it generic.
Any other comments for Casey? Okay, so again, it's on the 30-day review. If you think of anything else, I'll let Casey know. And Casey's also going to help us with the first reading of the 2013-14 Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plans.
As you know, first reading, I'm here every fall to go over this as our policy IGAEB directs an annual review and readoption of the district's drug, alcohol, and tobacco prevention program. So again, this is the first reading. I generally, this doesn't change a lot year to year, so I generally just hit some highlights for you and then ask for questions. One of the first highlights is last fall, ODE revised K-12 health standards again. We're in the process of making sure we're in compliance with that, both at elementary and secondary schools. And then I'm going to go into some programs and hit some highlights there. Again,
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
How did they revise the standards?
I have them here. They basically added some language. And one example is to incorporate education and prevention about steroids, for example, in our secondary schools. Some of the things in the elementary had to do with recognizing ways for students to say no and prevention, those types of things. They're kind of spelled out on the spectrum of each category. So there are just a few underlined in each grade level that ask for the revision. And if you want, I can get those to you. I have them. Going into our programs, always want to highlight the great work of our care teams. Over the last several years, the emotional, physical needs of our students is at an all-time high. These care teams in each and every building take those at-risk students and provide and brainstorm resources for them so that we can provide what's out there in the county and connect them with services that they need. Care coordinators, we have a care coordinator in each feeder region. One of the new things this year that we've invited the care coordinators to participate in our monthly student threat assessment team meetings. Student threat assessment is when we look at students who have made physical harm or threats against themselves or other students or staff, and we have a countywide group of folks that provide resources and go through each case and determine what the next steps need to be to provide safety to not only the existing school but the student themselves. Invited the care coordinators in on that because they know a lot of things that are going on in the school with specific students and families, so it's been a great resource for us as a district. Our BLAST programs, Hillsboro Parks and Rec provides after-school programs. BLAST is the elementary level program. Over the years, it's been a goal to increase the number of schools that can participate in that. Years ago, we started out and there were 6 elementary schools that were offered to have that. We're up at 21 now. So getting closer to reaching that goal of providing that service to every elementary student. The outliers right now are some of the county schools, which does cause a little bit of an issue with Parks and Rec as far as finding a way to get services, because Parks and Rec is a city of Hillsboro entity. We have found some ways to provide services out of Free Orchards and Groner. We're still working to find ways, and it really comes down to transportation here and transportation back for the families out at North Plains and West Union. But to have 21 schools is quite an accomplishment. Really going well with those programs. The zone programs are middle school, after school enrichment, and homework club program, still going at all 4 middle schools. SROs, we continue with a great partnership with the City of Hillsboro and Washington County. We have a law enforcement agency responsible for every one of our schools. The only one that's not directly responsible as far as the City of Hillsboro or Washington County is North Plains. And we have a great relationship with the chief of police up there, so he acts as a school resource officer. He's there all the time. So I feel really good about every one of our schools having a direct law enforcement presence in their school for staff, students, community to utilize their resources. Every year we have students take a student safety survey, and we rotate between the Oregon Healthy Teen Survey and the Oregon Wellness Survey. I met a few weeks ago with Carla Bennett. She's the Washington County Tobacco Prevention Coordinator, to ask about some trends that we're starting to see with our students around e-cigarettes and hookah lounges. Because if you look, I won't go over all the data, but if you look at the data that's in your packet, tobacco, alcohol, inhalant, marijuana use according to students has gone down slightly across the board. What we're seeing now, and this is not just a Hillsboro issue, it's a national issue, is the amount of students indicating that they've used a hookah lounge or e-cigarettes is going up. E-cigarette use has doubled according to the CDC in a year. And for example, the use of hookah lounges, I just learned this, I'll tell this stat, I don't know if you're interested, but hookah has 36 times more tar and 10 times more carbon monoxide than cigarette smoke. One typical hour of a hookah session equals inhaling the smoke of 100 to 200 cigarettes. And the way that it's marketed is a kind of a cool thing for young people to use. It's not regulated by the FDA. It doesn't classify as tobacco in federal legislation, so it's kind of out there on its own. And just an example of that, if you look at our 2012 tobacco use, and this is 11th graders, 10.8 students indicated they used some sort of tobacco product. In 2012, 12.2% of 11th graders indicated they used a hookah product. So higher than tobacco.
Could I just ask a question? I'm sorry, would you repeat that statistic about the tar and the CO2?
Oh, yeah.
I want to write that down.
It says a hookah has 36 times more tar and 10 times more carbon monoxide than cigarette smoke.
Nice.
And then going to the 2013, the hookah, 11.5% of our students in 11th grade indicated use compared to 9.5% for tobacco use. It's something we need to look at, and I'll be working with the county to see what's out there and how we can help provide some prevention programs and education for our students.
Casey, I don't know that, I'm not saying you're the expert, but do you know is there a minimum age to go into a hookah lounge?
I think it's 18, but I would need to clarify. I'm fairly certain it is 18. One of the things that they're working for is, the county is working on is kind of like underage alcohol sales. They're finding these lounges, I guess, that they have, where they're letting younger people in than 18, so they're working to try to kind of correct that and have a task force that goes and monitors these places.
I'm not certain that there's a hookah lounge in Hillsboro. I know there's one in Aloha.
I think she mentioned that they haven't come to Hillsboro yet.
Yeah.
But they're popping up all
They're
over
in
the
Beaverton and
place.
Aloha.
Now, were these all used like within lounges or not in people's basements or things like that?
The use of our students in hookah, it doesn't specify where the use is. I don't have that information. The other thing one thing that's, and maybe Janine can help me with this, that's absent on this year's report, we've always had a section for Hate Together.
Hey.
And funding has gone away, so I do know that the board of directors is still there and acting, but I'm unsure of who to contact or what prevention access they have.
I'm still on the board there. Funding has been reduced, but there is, we do have some funding. We have a group that is actively looking at providing more of a focus of our work. And one of those things that we did talk about is the importance of the prevention task force. And that was such a great tool for the district and the county and Hay. The district nurse was there. SRO Alex was there, and to be able to have a table discussion as to what the issues are in Hillsboro, moving forward, what we can do, working together, concentrating our efforts, So I do know that Hay is still active. It's still, did I say Hillsboro? Engages you. So, okay. Anyway, and so, yeah. And we are really interested in the prevention task force.
Okay. And prevention clubs that was started at the middle schools, there was some talk at that last board meeting about trying to continue an aspect of that. I'd be interested in having some more discussion. I know Michelle was going to get back in touch, but she, so just point me in that direction.
We have a new director.
Okay.
So I can get you all that information. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I have. Feel free to take a look. Contact me with any questions, and we'll see you a couple weeks, I guess. Go ahead.
I had a couple questions. I was kind of surprised to read, is this because it said the Family Resource Center was drug and addiction? Is that more through youth contact, but not the actual Family Resource Center?
More through youth contact.
Okay, because that was surprising me. And then when I mentioned the prevention task force, when you talk about health curriculum, I know that some time ago when Hay worked to have various parent universities at the high schools, one of the things that we try to do through the Liberty Feeder is really engage our middle school health teachers in making sure that they have their students come and hear the discussions about substance abuse and whatnot. And I distinctly remember one of the teachers saying, gosh, don't you think 7th grade is a little early to have that discussion? Do you think this is appropriate for them? And I was like, what? So I just want to make sure that, when you're talking about health curriculum, how hard do we talk about that at our middle school and our elementary.
Well, I think, not knowing the specifics of that,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that we refer back to the ODE health curriculum standards and teaching those standards. And so what those standards represent is what we would teach. I would have to follow up more.
Is it possible, is there
their
someone that you
secondary
can
folks.
refer me to that I could just look at that? I'm just
The
curious.
standards or what our current curriculum is?
The standards, the health
Yes.
standards, and then,
I'll send them, I have them. I
Okay.
have them all saved and I can put them in an update. Okay.
Any other questions for Travis tonight? I'm sorry, Casey. You said
We get it all the time.
Perfect. So again, it's on 30-day review, and if you have questions or comments, direct them to me. Thanks, Casey. Sorry, Travis. HCU, Eric left. Is there anyone else here from HCU tonight? Okay. And HEA? Perfect.
My name is, excuse me, Michelle Myers-Bragato, and I was just recently voted in as interim vice president for HEA. I've been in Hillsboro, teaching in Hillsboro. I'm going into my 19th year, and my 24th year altogether. But before I get started with just a few notes here, I wanted to let the superintendent know that I got a really good picture of him taking a picture of Beth as well. And so it's on Twitter, Instagram, and so if I can get your handle, maybe we can. We'll talk. Maureen Barnhart is not available tonight because she's down in Eugene at a Effective Educators Conference, and she's with a couple of other members from HEA. It happens to be coincidental that I'm here on a night when my department head, Travis Ryman, is here. I'm an ESL teacher here in Hillsboro. I started out as a classroom teacher at Dave Hill, so that kind of dates me. But altogether in my career here in Hillsboro, I have served students in 8 different elementary schools. And I just wanted to mention a little bit, kind of extend a little bit of the conversation that Doña Cañas mentioned about the idea of ESL specialists and ELD shrinking. And as a classroom teacher and now as an ESL specialist, if anything, I would say that the team is expanding. Classroom teachers are now looking to ESL specialists, special ed people, tag coordinators, speech pathologists as part of a team. And it's a lot like any other profession. If you think of a doctor, or if you think of a sports team or something like that, not everybody can be the AD. I know a lot of guys want to, but you know, you have defensive coaches, and you have line coaches, and you have third base coaches, and things like that. So I feel honored to be part of a team effort to get our second language learners up to speed. And just to highlight a little bit of what Travis was saying was, I know in my experience in the classroom that it's data-driven instruction. When we collaborate with classroom teachers, we take a look at all of that data and we target instruction based on the current standards. And if you think about it, I guess the analogy would be like when you exercise, it's frequency, it's intensity, and duration. And English language acquisition doesn't happen overnight. And so although we've had maybe a little wobble in some of our statistics, I can assure you that the work is going on in our schools rigorously with those students. We take everyone as they come through the door, and we utilize our talents and our expertise to get those kids up to speed as quickly as we can. I can attest as well that objectives are being posted in classrooms, having been in a variety of classrooms. Last year as a pseudo coach for ESL in my own building at Newberry and West Union, classroom teachers are embracing that philosophy of having objectives posted, so it's clearly articulated to young students, as young as first grade, and very clear and referred to in fifth grade, the sixth grade classrooms as well. Classroom teachers are embracing the use of cognates and posting those as well and using that. Cognates being words that are spelled similarly between Spanish and English. And they're posting that and using that as their front-loading in vocabulary. So students are really making those cognitive linguistic connections, cross connections, and using their bilingual ability to transfer what they're learning in their first language via that front-loading into the content that they get from their classroom teacher. In addition to that, with the data, we're taking samples and doing the progress monitoring 3 different times a year. We're trying to get a holistic picture of what's going on with our ESL population so we don't kind of have an aha moment. We know our students very intimately. We get to know their families really well. And that one little window of testing, as you know, is not necessarily representative of what's going on in a child's head. Finally, I just want to say that it's really encouraging to hear the passion from the school board. I know that your work sometimes seems to be, I don't want to say ignored, but not necessarily, the school board, you're a body that's there, and you're moving forward with the policies and the procedures that we're all embracing. But it's wonderful to hear the idea of having a legislative body to advocate for our district and classroom teachers, because the biggest issue that we're facing now is class sizes. It's very difficult if you have 34, 36 students in a first, second grade classroom. I have no idea what's going on in the middle school and the high school, I can only imagine. But we can't utilize all of this data, and we can't utilize all of the training, and we can't continue to work as a team if we are just sort of managing students. So whatever support that we can get from you, it's a collective approach to what's best for our kids, and whatever we can do now at this moment in time obviously is going to make them contributing members to the community at large when they graduate. So thank you for your time, and I'm honored to be here tonight.
Thank you. And with that, we move to superintendent time.
I will be brief. I wanted to just highlight 2 school visits that I've had over the last week or so. First one was to Indian Hills, and Michelle mentioned a lot of the strategies that are being used in our with our English language learners. And it was great to be able to go into classrooms and see that happen, just in a general ed classroom, and the strategies that are being employed are impressive. And Indian Hills is a school that has achieved great individual student growth with their English language learners, and after a visit there, it's plain to see why that's happening. And the other visit I would like to highlight is a visit to Liberty High School last week. Kim and I and some of the staff members here were invited to the FEAST program, and it is the life skills students and the program that they put on and the skills that they learned along the way in preparing for the program was just inspiring. So it was a great visit.
All right, with that, we'll start on this end tonight, Eric.
I just wanted to mention a couple of communication that I've gotten from some parents over the past week about the dual language program. A few meetings ago we had some discussions about, can people opt out of dual language? Because it's a good program, but it's not for everybody. And I actually got a letter from a parent who had transferred a child who had dual language. And his child had been thought to maybe have a learning disability or something, and after a few months in an English-only classroom, she's actually at grade level and above. So I think it's just something important to emphasize that we have a lot of good programs, but every parent should be aware of whether the program is right for their kids and not hesitate to contact school officials if something doesn't seem to be working for them. And the reason why I'm especially interested in highlighting it is just as I got this positive communication from a parent, I saw there was actually a letter in the Argus last week about a parent from a grandparent, I think, who had a child in a dual language program and wasn't doing so well. And so it's unfortunate that they had to write to the Argus, and they felt like that was easier than communicating with the school. We really need to work with the parents and make sure everyone knows that they have alternatives.
Adriana?
Just lots to be thankful for. It's great to be back. I went back home for Thanksgiving and I had something really, I say magical happen. I don't say it's a coincidence because I'm going back into a career that I left and I've made plans to do it. But I went to church with my sister and my father, and I walked in and I sat in the pew. And in front of me was a student that I had worked with 27 years ago. First student I ever worked with special needs at Perez Special Education Center down in East Los Angeles. And she's 38 years old now, and I know she remembered me. She was an amazing, her name was Lucy. And her mom was there, and her father was there, and I said, I just remember her being so smart and stubborn as a whip, and she says, oh yeah, she's still that way. So it was just a really a magical moment to go back home and have this coincidence happen as some sort of sign. So, and I know she remembered because she looks the same. She said I look the same too.
Not much, just appreciated the time getting together with a group of us at the conference. Some good messages heard. Learning's taken away that will go for future conversations. I look forward to discussions in a couple of weeks when we're talking about learnings. It'll be interesting to compare notes. It was fun. I got back, the interesting story, I got back from the Apple event, the Apple distribution event morning a few weeks ago, and I got home and my kids just say, Dad, you and Joshua were on the school website. My son, and I go, why am I on the guy knew that I'd just been there, but it turns out it was the Liberty Elementary Honor Choir, and he ended up on the scrolling bar right next to me, and so they were all excited that both of us were excited. So that was kind of fun to participate in. But I hope the Apple distribution went well. It was fun getting them all right. I really do appreciate this time of thanks to all the hard work the teachers, administrators, and staff are doing, and I want to echo that gratitude for all the work and time and effort they put in.
You can tell your kids are younger, they're excited you run the website. Here's your button, I wrote down and you're on the computer again.
I was him that was on the website. It was more fun than me on the website.
Glenn?
I don't really have a whole lot other than to say I'm looking forward to my first official school visit tomorrow with Mike with our pre-orchards at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to have a great time, actually.
Cool. Enjoy all the art in that in the hallways there.
Look forward to it.
Go ahead.
I want to mention American Education Week. Once again, thought it was a wonderful opportunity to acknowledge the staff in our district that goes above and beyond every single day. And it's just a neat way that we can come together and provide these special baskets for all the staff members. And really want to do a shout out to Communications Department as well as Facilities, because it couldn't have been done without them. And Smithberry Barn, who once again donated a good percentage of all the apples, which happen to be called Liberty apples. And they were, it was a very nice, very generous treat, and he's willing to do it again next year too. So, but Facilities really helped us out with delivering, and Communications Department helped us assemble as well as deliver when they could. And so, so please thank everyone for that, and Adam, please express our gratitude to Facilities. Great group of guys and 2 ladies. So the other thing I wanted to mention was a 2011 graduate from Glencoe High School. Her name was Emma Hamill, and she was recently in she's Miss Washington County, and she was recently in the Miss Oregon pageant. And she just had a fabulous time, and I watched her little presentation on Oregon Live. They did an interview with her, and she just really came away from that. She thought, oh, pageant, that's what it's about. But she got so much more out of that because of being able to find her platform and be able to work and really highlight women, strengths and how they're portrayed in media. And I'm looking forward to partnering with her on a possible community event. And she's just an incredible young lady. And I look forward to this time of year because this will be the 3rd year that I will make visits throughout the elementary school and read my holiday stories. So I have one tomorrow at Lincoln Street, and then the schedule goes on from there. So sometimes I read The Grinch, and sometimes I read an elf story. So anyway, I love it.
Thank you. Monty?
I'm excited just to hear the choral group tonight. Excited to go to some of the choral holiday concerts that are put on and see the kind of effort our kids put into that kind of endeavor. It's a lot of hard work, and my hat's off to the choir instructors and band instructors. It's a lot of extra work that they don't pay for. And I'm thankful for all our employees. We seem to be asking more and paying less to everybody. So I'm really thankful that that's everybody, classified, licensed, administrative. We really appreciate you. And thank you.
And I just have 2 things. One kind of fits in with the EL work we were talking about tonight. I was at Evergreen, and they were awarding students for being successful in different content areas. So the best students in each content area, and recognizing students who had a 3.0 or above. And as they recognize students in the ELL department, as a monolingual person with monolingual children, I wished we did not call it ELL, because they're mastering a second language. And the kids who are monolingual did not understand when a student got an ELL award that they were mastering a second language and how difficult that is. And I wish we called it something different. Because I went home and explained it to my son, who didn't know what ELL was or an ESL award, and I'm like, they're mastering something. We're not talking about taking second language in high school and you hope to come up with a handful of words to say that on your transcript you did too. They're mastering second language. And we have to find a better definition of what that is so that monolingual students understand how cool that is. Because it's very cool. And my other is, I have been very fortunate to be spending time at Henry and Lincoln. They are both right-brain schools, and one of them is an entry level, which means they're just piloting it this year. And Lincoln Street having a change in leadership and principal is almost like starting over again. And I am getting to volunteer and participate in their residencies. And it is fun to watch children have joy and experience art. That is it. With that, we are adjourned.